I see the red lights. It means that we are live. It is Friday morning, October 13th. That is like the creepiest Friday the 13th in history, the October one. My name is Brian
Eh,
Brinkman. Eh, creepy is a relative term, I guess. Jonathan, Megan are here. This is the Helping Friendly podcast, not the 40 for 40 edition. I do have the wrong banner up for everyone watching on YouTube. I apologize. For everyone listening at home, you don't know, we are here. This is HF Pod on tour covering Fish's fall run. We got Shermith in the house no matter what time we go live. 2:30 in
impressive.
the afternoon, 7:30 at night, 8:30 in the morning Mountain Standard Time. Shermith is here hanging out, participate in the chat. We love you. Thank you so much. We are covering today Fish's Dayton run, multi-night run in Dayton, Ohio. The fourth and fifth shows of Fish's fall 2023 fall run. Really, really good stuff here. We're going to dive into it all. But before we do, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, Megan, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Brian. Last spring I went to the MSG shows and I got the whale variant. And this time I went out to Colorado last weekend and I got the college variant. So I'm getting some time home to relax and chill, but I'm feeling okay. This is the first time I've gotten dressed in a few days. I'm half dressed,
Amazing.
to be fair, too. I have sweatpants on.
On a Friday
So
morning, no less. That is quite
I
impressive.
know. It is good.
Right.
So I'm getting a chance to, relax after a big weekend, but
That's
I'm
good.
feeling okay. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. Jonathan, how's your Friday going? You been jamming a little bit?
Yeah, I took the day off. I got a gig tonight, and I'm just hanging out and
Nice.
tidying up the house and just playing music along with music from this terrific fall tour. I just checked the website. It's fall tour. New Year's is a run. It's fall tour. And I'm excited. They've been playing really well, and I'm gonna miss live streaming tonight's show. I think I have a good reason, but then we'll watch the rest of the weekend. It's all gonna be great, I think, even if it doesn't match everybody's expectations, because it never does. Never
It is
does.
always
Nope.
different. Where are you playing tonight?
Gonna be good.
Give us
It's a
for
house
anyone
show.
in the
It's
region.
a house
It's a
show in
house show.
Fredericksburg, so it's a small affair. But
Nice.
we've got Liam Grant, who's on tour right now, coming through to play. He's been playing all over here in the East. I have his new single right here, backed with Spiral Joy Band, and yeah, it should be fun.
Nice, man. You got a set list written out, or are you just going to wing it? How do you approach these things?
Man, I'm really new to this, so I
Mhm.
have a handful of songs that I've been practicing. And as long as nobody else's songs sound like mine, Liam, he's headlining, so, and his stuff won't sound like mine. So that's no big deal. But yeah, I'm just kind of winging it from a narrowed select set of songs.
Love it. Well, if you all are in the Fredericksburg, Virginia area, check out Jonathan's house show tonight. That'd be awesome. If I lived back in Annapolis, I would drive down for it. Speaking of, if I lived back somewhere, I would go someplace tonight. If I lived in Chicago still, I would be at the United Center. Fish will be playing 3 nights at the United Center, the house that Michael Jordan built, and the house that has been thus destroyed by Jerry Reinsdorf, Jerry Krause, John Paxson, Gar Foreman, and Derrick Rose's knee. I am personally terrified about this upcoming run. The United Center is a horrendous concert venue, and only tragedy has happened at the United Center since Michael Jordan left in the summer of 1998. So personally, I am walking into this weekend with a bit of dread. That said, stepping back,
Only thing in there is what you take with you.
it's very true. I take what I take with
Wise
me. That is
words.
that I wear it
Yoda.
all in my sleeve. That said, Fish did play 2 nights in Dayton, Ohio at the Nutter Center at Wright State University, a university I am unfamiliar with aside from the fact that Fish has played a few shows there. This was, as my count, and I'm actually just going to check the fish.net stats on this because I want to make sure I'm correct, and I am. This was Fish's 4th and 5th show at the Nutter Center. They played 11:30:95, officially released, excellent show. 12/7/97, officially released, excellent show. 7/18/2017, amazing show just before the Baker's Dozen. If you forget about that show, please go back and listen to that second set because it rules. And then 10/10/2023 and 10/11/2023. Amazing shows. We're going to get into that. What were your guys' thoughts kind of coming out of Nashville, going into a place like Dayton? How did you guys think about this segment of the tour as we're going into it?
I love Midwestern Fish. I grew up in the Midwest, and there's something kind of old school about it. It just always feels old school whenever they play there. I can't describe it. Maybe it's just because I grew up there, and they've played so many legendary shows there. And I was just excited that they're going back there kind of to commemorate this 40th anniversary year. And I thought the Nashville shows were awesome. I think they're really doing some incredible stuff, pulling out some rarities, they continued that through Dayton. And I think they sound good. They sound really loose and really conversational and patient and also really energized. I thought they had a blast this weekend in Dayton. I'm super excited to get into the shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nashville was, I think by all accounts, pretty strong. Great shit every night, and
Mhm.
they it was their ball to drop when they got to the Nutter Center. And as Trey told us going out from the Nutter Center on, was that Wednesday night, it's still a great place, great venue, and they loved it, and they showed it a lot of love. So
It's a
they were ready
sick
to go.
venue, right?
I
It's a
guess.
sick venue. The
Sick.
phrasing that Trey chose to use that matches
Love
so
that.
many things that so many Fish fans say about great jams, great shows. I loved it. Shout out here, Anthony Pagano, who noted to us at the top that this is his first live HF Pod Live.
Yeah,
Welcome, my dude.
welcome.
Welcome to the chat. I was at Nashville. The vibes were amazing. Crowd energy was similar to MSG. That is a really
Damn.
bold statement, but I love hearing stuff like that. That like, because we've experienced this. I've talked about when I saw West Coast Fish back in 2021. I saw amazing shows, but the energy was very muted. It was very different from seeing an East Coast Fish show. So having Fish come to a city like Nashville that has become something of like not a second home, but like they're pretty comfortable there. They come back there all the time. They got Vance there. They
It's
love playing
goddamn Music
Ascend.
City. I mean,
It's a music city,
Yeah.
but it's not really a
Yeah.
place that like you didn't think of Nashville as like a Fish home in the
Mm-mm.
90s. It's a really recent phenomenon for them to have a fan base that travels to see there, plus people that live there. It's pretty cool. And then Ben Gardner, longtime friend of the pod, back home and recovered from Dayton, a motion to induct the Nutter Center into the Fish Venue Hall of Fame. I
Hell
pass
yeah.
this. I think that this is
Me
a
too.
great call. I vote yay. Megan, you vote yay.
Yay.
Jonathan, you vote yay.
I mean,
Oh, just vote yay. Come on, Jonathan.
No, I don't want to vote yay. I want to vote probably. I mean, they're
yay.
batting. What?
Our
I
caucus
can't
is
go
broken,
long.
isn't it?
Sorry, we're
As
just gonna have to
usual.
go into a private caucus to come out with the candidate who will drop out.
Jonathan's
Yeah, no, I
filibustering a yes.
think it's
Totally.
hitting pretty well. I haven't been there, so I don't know. Everybody's just psyched they played good shows. It could be a
Yeah, but even if you've
shithole.
never
I don't
been
know.
there, you know if it's good or not for Fish.
Yeah,
I know
Well,
Fish has played well there.
And Ben says if it just feels different stepping in that building, if there are a lot of these venues around the country, and I think one of the interesting things about the Nutter Center is we're going to get into here. This venue had insane historical lore, and for 20 years the band did not play there. And when they went back and played there right before the Baker's Dozen, I know personally, I remember online chatter was, what if it doesn't match what happened, and is the band aware of how good the show was from 12/7/97? I don't think that they're walking on stage thinking we got to match that, but like they played a show that recognized what the fan base thought of that venue. And I would say, just kind of to show my hand from the start here, I think overall they did the same thing over 2 nights. I think that they spread the goods over 2 nights in a really cool way. I don't think we got as like much of a like smack you in the face type of set the way that we got at 7/18/17, but I think across 2 nights we got some amazing music, and one of my favorite jams of the year. So let's dive into this. Night one, Tuesday, October 10th. Set one, we got Sigma Oasis, The Ninth Cube, which was the return of that 88 shows since the Sci-Fi Soldiers Halloween show. Theme from the Bottom, Cool Amber and Mercury, 555 or 555, depending on how you pronounce it. Bathtub Gin, Broken into Pieces, Reba into Chalk Dust Torture. Jonathan, I want to start with you. What were your thoughts overall on this first set, and what were your big highlights?
I think this first set was I think this is a solid first set. I find the song selections interesting. By the time they're in Cool Amber and Mercury, I was like, wow, this is we're batting again. We're they're really leaning into newer stuff. Theme is from the 90s, but Sigma, Ninth Cube, Cool Amber, and Mercury. I was bummed that I was no longer in the 100% club on Ninth Cube. But that's going to happen. Um, but I think it's good. Ninth Cube is really chill. I'm glad that's back because I think that's some interesting music. Cool Amber and Mercury, I think also chill. I like this 555. It doesn't really do a lot, but the show really gets going with this bathtub gin, and I think this gin is a keeper. Has just a really great peak, and it was a lot of fun to listen to at the time. Reba is also quite nice. Isn't that the second Broken into the Pieces at that point?
Yeah.
Second, yeah.
So I think that sucked some momentum out for some people. I kind of like the song. I think that it just needs a little. It needs to be taken for a walk. It just needs to be up on stage a little more, or it feels like lived in.
I think it also, and this was something you pointed out in our last episode, Trey's voice definitely sounds like he's been on the road for 6 months at this point in time, and a song like Broken into Pieces requires some high notes. And so if you're, I guess there's an argument in favor of if your voice is a bit broken, a song like Broken into Pieces works, play on words type of moment. But it definitely felt like if you don't have that range right now, why are you attempting these songs? But also, to your point, how are these songs going to become comfortable if you don't actually play them? Megan, what were your thoughts on this set?
I thought the set was great. I think this was the best first set of the 2 nights. I think it has a really good flow, and I think it's great. They've got, like Jonathan mentioned, 3 pretty rare songs, 2 songs second time played, and a song that hasn't been played since 2021. I love Sigma as an opener. Those opening chords, just so optimistic. They just kind of set you off into the show, just feels good. And I thought Ninth Cube was great. It's just a cool instrumental little song, and Cool Amber Mercury hasn't been played since The Gorge in 21, and I've heard this song twice. It's the 8th time played. I really like this song. It's definitely one of my favorite Casbah Back songs. It's a great song. And yeah, the gin, like Jonathan mentioned, is beautiful. There's like a point at 8 minutes in when you can hear them all just pulling apart at the melody, and then it gets really driving, has a glorious peak, really great reentry, beautiful, great version. I'll listen back to that for sure. And yeah, Broken into Pieces, I'm really glad Trey's playing these new songs. I heard it in Tuesday at that 8-1 MSG show. And Brian, you heard it in Colorado, right? With the Trey Band?
Yeah, I heard
I don't
one of
remember
the
what
Trey
that
commercials.
version. Yeah, I don't remember what that version was like, but I think this song has potential. I really like it in the first set like this, and I think it's great that Trey's playing these songs. I thought it was an awesome
Yeah.
set. Good flow.
I'd like to say that while I commented on the momentum drag, perhaps that some people perceived during that, and I could hear why they'd say that, I'm also in favor of him playing these songs, and I liked it.
Yeah. It's a good song.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I think overall, a couple of my biggest takeaways were this was the set where it makes me think that they're at this point going for a no repeats run, and they're just kind of doing it in their sleep. And as we get into the remainder of the well, I'm just kind of like calling it as the tour evolves. I think ultimately they just have so many songs, and they can just play so
Yeah.
many songs across an 8-show run. And so, Ninth Cube, 88 shows since the Halloween show, Cool Amber, as you noted, 106 shows since the Gorge, even 555, 28 shows since 7-Eleven played on the first night of summer tour. Like, they're just bringing out songs that don't get a lot of airplay, while, you know, Disease opens the second set the next night, and we could theoretically see that open the second set on Sunday, but maybe they leave it on the table. It just seems like they're kind of bringing intentionally songs that don't get a lot of airplay into this tour, surrounded by other songs that are, your staples, like your Gin, your Reba, your Chalk Dust. Musically, I kind of go between the Sigma and the Gin as my highlights for the set. I thought the Sigma did a really
Mhm.
nice job of kind of like pulling at the seams of that song, and it never really took the full leap into type 2 territory the way that we would hear the following night's opener. But it also didn't really need to. Sigma is just such a I've always thought that that is the closest thing Fish will come to writing a 70s classic rock, driving song. It just like has that like sunny windows down, just like cruising on the strip type of vibe to it. And when it jams, um, I want to tread lightly in terms of what I'm going to say. It's one of those songs that, like, I love the Sigma jams. Like, the Atlantic City version was one of my favorite jams of
Yeah.
2022, but I almost am like, the song itself is so good, like, let's just, like, bang out the song. It's almost like how Down with Disease leads into such huge and such killer jams, but when they play, like, a contained 10-minute version, you're like, "My god, you guys just wrote, like, the perfect rock song." I get that same sentiment with Sigma, but, the Gin got into that very dark, dirty, kind of driving rock sort of space, and it felt as though it was never gonna come back to Gin, and the fact that they found their way back into it so seamlessly was really impressive, and kind of raised that energy. It made playing a ballad after it, that point in the set, in the first set, make a lot of sense to me.
High
Yeah.
Like, we
contrast.
kind of needed, yeah, we
Mhm.
we kind of needed that like step back, and it's cool to me that they're still at this point in their career where they're introducing new ballads, where it wasn't, Fish has always been more heavily balanced towards rock songs, and the ballads kind of come in, and for some people they take away the energy, for others they're contemplative moments that kind of reset things. I tend to find myself in the latter category, and I find that, having more of these in their arsenal just makes that aspect of the show that much more interesting.
I want to comment on something, two things, and they kind of go together. So I think that 555 may also meet that criteria for classic rock, driving with the windows down kind of
Mm.
rock song. I think that song is killer. I think just the progression of it in this era, like when it came out, like many songs, it didn't really quite gel with Fish,
Mhm.
but it's totally gelled these days. And I think this one is a fine and good version of it. But also, you called it twice now 555. Mike actually says 555 in the song,
You're right.
so
Yeah.
you might want to
I'm
I
wrong.
also think that song, though, is a little bit like what you were saying with Sigma Brian, and that, like, it's good as just a song or a jam. Like, I remember the Atlantic City version was so great, just, like, they really jammed it out, kind of, like, stretched it out a bit, but that was interesting what you were saying about Sigma, because I feel like that too. Like, there's some Fish songs that are good just as the songs, but then can also jam too, which is
totally.
cool, and I think 555 kinda fits that bill as well.
It's
I mean,
also
they have
interesting
yet to
because,
give us a
like,
deep version of 555, but it could happen. It happened with
well, it's
Null.
yeah, it's interesting because the
Mhm.
very first version of 555, there, I said it right, and I will say ambient now, and whatever other
I'm
words
not calling you
I
out on any other things, and
I
I'm
know,
going to
I
keep
know.
saying
I'm just
Roger.
mess I'm just
But
messing with our listeners here. Um, the very first version, if you recall, jams from the debut performance at Wingsuit. It's that and Fuego were the two songs that we came out of that set being like, wow, we got two new jam vehicles. This is really sick. And since then, it really hasn't. Aside from that Atlantic City 2022 version that you referenced, Meg, which is great, and like, I lost my mind on my patio listening to that.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. In the room, it was crazy.
Yeah, and I think the challenge a lot of fans have, right or wrong, is that it's a very good song that has been the same thing while showcasing potential in its first performance. And I think a lot of fans hear
Yeah.
that and they're like, we heard you do it once. Can we just like try it again? Like, can we just get a little bit more space? Because one thing I'd argue, one of our critiques that we constantly throw around with Mike's songs is that they feel like 6 different songs in one. 555, it knows what it is. Like it
Yeah.
is, this is what I am, this is the space I play in, this is the groove that we play, and that works really well. And I would argue like the chorus is really solid. The lyrics like don't
Yeah.
necessarily bother me. It has like a message that I think is really fascinating. So I think that there's this like push and pull of people being like, hey, we want to like this song, but could you do just a little more with it? And that, whatever that debate is kind of uh, uh long lasting within the Fish community. But I agree with you, Jonathan. It was a solid version. It fit the kind of let's play some underplayed Halloween gems this first set, which is just something you don't really get from them.
Before we move on to set 2, can we just shout out Michael Myers is in the chat for Friday the 13th. So calling for spooky jams tonight.
Spooky jams. Hell yeah.
But
I'm on board for that.
He's alive. Yes. Let's go on to set 2 here. And I will just advocate the first 5 Halloween movies are all amazing. And if you have not sat down and watched them this October, I don't know what you're doing with yourself, but they are
I'm not going to do
legit
that.
great.
No, I don't like scary movies.
There's scary movies from the 70s. It's just like you see the
so different.
mask, like it gives you enough of a hint, and then it kind of scares you.
Do you
Plus,
need to see
as soon
5
as
of
you
them?
as soon as you see like boys and girls going off together, getting on the
You know
sofa
what's gonna
or
happen.
wherever, they're gonna die. So it's not like you can't there's no warning to avert your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the little girl who has the spirit of Michael Myers towards I think it's Halloween 4 and 5. Oh my God, dude.
It's true.
All
Those
right.
aren't the scariest movies. Like the scariest movies are like The Shining, where it's all like implied and like terrifying.
Love
That's
that.
like the really scary shit.
All
Yeah.
right, now I'm gonna go watch that this afternoon.
My sister's boyfriend showed me last night. There's a video on YouTube that they show you Jack Nicholson preparing for the scene where he throws the axe through the wall, and Shelley Duvall is in the
No way.
bathroom, and so it like shows him like warming up, like getting in the headspace while like the crew is walking around getting the scene all set, and then it directly segues into the scene where he hits the door with the axe. It is one of the coolest things I've seen online. But
That's awesome.
film school resumes on October 20th when we talk 2012 Fish. Set 2, Mike Song into Prince Caspian, into No Men in No Man's Land, right back into Prince Caspian. It's Ice into Pillow Jets, direct segue into Weekapaw Groove, Twist, Slave to the Traffic Light, with a 4-song encore of Joy, Buffalo Bill, Wilson, and First Tube. There's a lot to unpack here. Jonathan, I started with you last time, so Megan, I'm going to start with you here for set 2. What are your overall thoughts? What are your big highlights?
I love this set, especially the first half of it. I think obviously this Mike song is cool. We've got a proper second jam. I love I love when they play songs that you can kind of expect in that slot, but they always remind you of like really great versions. Like I think back of when it opened set 2 at MSG on 8/4, which was like a callback to when it opened up that night at the Baker's Dozen on the whole night. Like there's just this kind of like a historical reference that just makes you like really excited. And I think the first part has that kind of growly strut, which is exactly what you want from a Mike song. And then it's got like a really patient, exploratory, conversational section. It's really beautiful. And I love how it ends with like the really like powerful, big, effect-filled ending. It's just a really great jam. I love how like it has multiple sections, which is I think all you can ask for in a Mike's jam. It's great. And I think the Caspian is super earned and absolutely beautiful. Like I know I beat a dead horse with this, but I just don't fucking understand why people don't love Caspian. It's one of the most beautiful songs they've ever written. And this version's gorgeous, awesome into No Men. You know, this is dancey, just how I like my No Men's. And then when Trey finds that Caspian riff and they're back into it for another minute or so, it sounds so effortless. And I love that little like sandwich there. It's so nice, especially after like really like intense, powerful mics. And then Ice is always great. I think it's like, they also stretch that out a bit. It gets like a little discordant and out there in that section right before the end, which is so great. And I love Pillow Jets. I think it's such a great placement here. I love this song. It's only the third time played. again showing a willingness to like take new songs out for a ride. It's only a matter of time before this song jams super big. It's just they immediately kind of can go off. And I think we're going to hear this song have a 20-25 minute version like really soon. It's great ending with the like really crazy soundscapes and fishmen doing this like weird marching beat. I loved it. And I wasn't expecting them to like end the Mike's groove. I kind of thought the groove was off the table. So I was surprised when they went into Weekapog, but it was fun, great energy. And I think this twist has some really special moments too. It gets really quiet, really patient. There's some super sexy sections of this twist that's just really bluesy and jazzy and really, really pretty. And yeah, ending with Slave. I mean, I think this set's great.
Yeah, I think great is a perfect assessment. This Mike song has it. Like this is the I think I texted you guys. This is the truth right here. Mike song always a great opener. When they start playing that riff, the intro Mike song at the beginning of a set, people know they're ready to throw
Yeah.
down. And then this one quickly goes out, and I mean it really goes out too. Like they're in what would be termed first jam. They get into a very beautiful kind of blissy place that is so un-Mike song. It is just absolute gorgeous type 2 jamming, and then they pull it back, reprise the transition in Mike's, and then go to another jam that has just this higher tempo and drive to it, and it's outstanding. I mean, what is this clock at? Like 19 and a half minutes or something?
Yeah.
It is just crazy. Did not call this, did not have this on my bingo card, whatever you want to say. Just outstanding shit. And then I think they've earned the Caspian here, right?
Mhm.
And I know a couple people who just hate Prince Caspian and they roll their eyes, and that's too fucking bad, Pie Guy. This shit is good. And like they play Caspian and it's like 6 minutes, and okay, it's done. It's beautiful. It's done. They start No Men and No Man's Land, and then the type 2 jam at a No Men is Caspian jamming. And it's like Faspian, because it's so upbeat, but it's so in the key. It sounds just like, a fast Prince Caspian, that of course they can easily roll in and reprise Caspian at the end. That, like, I said it to you guys at the top. I think this Caspian No Men is likely to be overshadowed by the very amazing Mike's
Yeah.
song, but both of these are equally high points for me on this set. And the rest of it is it's just plain good. It's Ice rules. Pillow Jets, you talked about the jam on the end of that. I really like that. You can hear Mike pulls out the drill, so add that to another of the drill songs, maybe.
Mm.
Twist, you're dead on with the sexy kind of snaky playing. It's not super into his arena rock snarl guitar, and it's outstanding. And then A Slave to finish, and a 4-song encore with some amusing little banter around Buffalo Bill. What a great way to end the first night.
Yeah, it's interesting. I found the second set to be kind of like what we were talking about in early 3.0 second sets in the 40 for 40 series, where it's a lot of songs and it feels like segmented, but I really
Mm.
liked it. I liked the segments of it. I liked how you got this very big opening jam, and it's a Mike song that, um, when they started playing the second jam versions again in 2015, there was a sense some of those versions are really good, but some of them like still adhere to the first jam within Mike's and to like the energy within Mike's, and it's just kind of stretched out a little bit longer. There's a really interesting version from Nashville 2018 that like doesn't even adhere to the first second jam type of breakdown. It just goes completely off in like E sharp minor or something. It's like a crazy weird jam segment for them. The Baker's Dozen version obviously was really interesting. The version this summer from MSG was good. It was very energetic. It was it like immediately found a peak and just kind of lived in that zone for a while. This to me felt like a breakthrough almost in a way, which is a really crazy thing to say about one of their oldest songs. But like this is a style of jamming and mics that I would argue we haven't really heard within this song since the mid 1990s, like summer 95, when they would just go off into space out of mics. Um,
Mm.
I found it really fascinating from a historical version, from a musical standpoint. This is my zone. Like this is what I want to live in. And I find for them to open a second set this way and immediately get patient and immediately just allow the space to kind of like live and exist. And like the guys, someone throws out a riff, Fishman throws out a drum beat, Page moves to a new keyboard, Trey's playing around with effects. Like it wasn't really full of direction in a way that I really liked. It was kind of like they were just like, hey, we're here, we're hanging out, and we're just jamming. And I loved it. I found like, I think to your point, Jonathan, the Caspian, No Man's Caspian is definitely going to get overshadowed wrongly. It's a really solid segment of music, and it kind of just continues to show their creativity within their catalog. Those are two songs that like I'm never really going to think are going to be together in a sandwich the way that some other songs will. And it works. Like it really works. I'll also say like, just from a Caspian standpoint, I think we're all aligned here as like Caspian defendants, unless, you really take issue with the 2-minute versions from 1995, or unless you're only familiar with like the 2.0 early 3.0 versions that were kind of like 4 to 5 minutes and didn't do much other than kind of like break up one song to another, go back and listen to Fall 97 Caspians, and go back and listen to pretty much every Caspian since the Magnavox version.
Hmm.
Both sides are two very different approaches to the song. The first is like Jimi Hendrix inspired Trey, My Bloody Valentine inspired Trey, just like taking this 2-chord song and like blowing it out for 14, 15 minutes. But basically everything since Magnaball has been really fascinating like this, where they're finding new angles. Like the Dix version from this summer was incredible. The MSG version from this summer was
Yeah.
incredible. They find things in the song that it's now becoming the norm, that when they play Caspian, they go to a really interesting space. The last thing I'll say is just like to your point, Meg, about Pillow Jets. It reminds me of The Well in the sense that
Yeah.
Trey has written a song. It's a very short, but like, when you're in that space musically, like you're in that space and that space lyrically, like what he's writing about, he has like dropped you into this zone. Love it or hate the lyrics, wherever you stand on that, like he has dropped you into a very intentional subject matter zone. But then he's left the back end completely open to do whatever with. And while we have not gotten a version of Pillow Jets that is kind of on the par with the version of The Well from The Man, it's coming. Like it's clear that this is just open-ended space for these guys.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if we get a 15, 20-minute version at MSG. So yeah, I mean, in closing, these are the kind of sets that don't typically work for me, but I really enjoyed listening to this on Tuesday night, and I've really enjoyed listening to it in the days since.
Yeah, I think it hangs together well throughout. And somebody, David Miller here in the chat, says the Caspian supported the dreamy, mellow vibe of the show. I gotta
It's a
say,
good
I'm
point.
I'm kind of with you there, David.
Yeah.
It's not the most angsty, aggressive Fish concert. It, but it does have some nice highs and lows and that kind of the energy. And I think that it overall it's a great level and a lot of fun. Good show.
That's a good note. And like when you get songs that like support a vibe, that's a really cool space to be in, especially since they're calling this in the moment. Anthony Pagano, pillow jets. I often ponder, does that mean pillows in the shapes of jets or pillows flying through the air at the speed of sound?
Less literal, I think, Anthony.
I imagine it's just like you're floating on the clouds. Like we're in a dream space at this point. What do you think, Meg?
Well, I think it's open for interpretation, but what this song really means to me is that like Trey's got 2 brand new songs that he's playing in a set, in a famous arena for them in their 40th year. Like what other band is doing that? Like this is incredible. Like I think that's what stood out to me on this whole run, tour, whatever you guys want to call it. But there is just this willingness to continually tap into their new material and also think about how they're set listing them. I mean, there was some online chatter about Fish potentially like not showing up and not really wanting to be there. And I think there's factual evidence that that's not the case when you're playing really new songs and you're playing them regularly and playing songs that you haven't played in years. And they don't have to do that. They have enough songs where they don't have to do that. They're obviously thinking about their set list. They're obviously rehearsing these songs. And they're also saying that they're excited to be there and having fun. And I think this encore showed that. You've got a song like Buffalo Bill, right? 22nd time played, super funny, silly song, harkens back to like old school Fish. That's the shit that they do when they're having a good time.
Totally agree. And it made me think of something before we transfer to the second night. We talked a lot coming out of spring tour about, I loved that tour, or that run, however we want to describe it. I guess we'll just call it a fucking tour. I loved that. That was the zone for me. That is, to this point in mid-October 2023, that is my favorite music I've heard from any band. And I've listened to a lot of albums, I've listened to a lot of concerts. Like, that was my favorite music I've heard all year. Jonathan, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you did say at the time something along the lines of like, you missed the humor in that tour. And I'm curious, this tour feels to me like a blend of the deep, weird, psychedelic plane of spring with some more of the humor and banter and energy and engaging aspects that we found throughout this summer tour. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you hear it that way as kind of a melding of that?
I want to reserve my comment until after Chicago. Because,
Fair point.
it's been 5 shows. I want to see what happens. I think that I'm leaning in that direction, though.
There has to be a Vax solo, right, Jonathan, for us to like fully
that's
commit to
true. Without that, it's not funny. Without that,
it's not
funny.
fun. Like, they're not truly
You caught
having
me
fun
out.
unless
That's
Fishman comes
exactly what I
out.
was
This is a good
hinting
point.
at. But no, I think they could demonstrate having a good, fun time without that. But I'd like to have one.
But this is like the best conversation because it's like, Fish, you're not being funny enough, okay? Like, you're not doing big enough jams. You're not like set listing perfectly, and you're not being funny enough. So it's just like this, like our expectations just
Fish has to
continually
know,
make me
like, that
laugh
there
so
are.
much.
They have to know that they have, like, there's 4 guys, 4 personalities, and there are probably 8 or 10 sides to the band.
That's a
There
good
is
point.
the composition side, there's the open-ended jamming side, there's the humor side, there's whatever Mike is doing side, there's Paige channeling Elton John side. And by the way, Paige, for no reason other than it would be awesome, Burn Down the Mission would be a really cool song to sing this weekend, just saying. They're a 9, we'll call it a 9-sided cube of
Maybe a
a
ninth
band.
cube.
And humor is one of those.
Totally.
And we all know 2.0 Fish, a lot of that was sucked out of it.
Did not have humor.
Certainly the second half
Wasn't
of
funny.
2.0. So
It wasn't funny at all.
it's all part of the
I didn't
thing
laugh
that
once.
we need.
2 years
I didn't
went
even
by.
go because it wasn't funny. I didn't even go.
I didn't laugh once. I went a lot, but I didn't laugh once. Just a couple quick shout outs here in the comments because we got some heavy hitters here. Neil Landry says, AMHF pod. This is a pleasant surprise. I guess my morning work plans can go F themselves. You are
Yes,
absolutely
Neil.
right about that,
It's
Neil.
Friday, dude. Grab a donut.
I'm not even
drink
at work.
coffee.
Don't tell
We
anybody.
still have another show to recap.
Ben Gardner goes, I have no idea what Conjurers of Thunder means, but I love it. Fish, you goofy goofs, win again. I'm right there with
Yes,
you.
exactly.
Grupp tells us that Trey's got a room full of pillows. I guess he's just got a pillow room, and he wrote a song about that. And then Toph B goes, I love Caspian. It's so underrated. So we got more people on our Team Caspian side
Trey
here.
goes
Yay.
into the room full of pillows and sits under the air conditioning jets blowing on him. And then he hits his octave pedal down, so everything is like down. He just plays really low on the E string, and so the whole room rumbles like thunder. That's the whole song.
Conjurers of Thunder.
I like the idea that he has a room full of pillows that has been like an inspiration room that he's written a lot of songs in. And one day he
Just
just
lay on
wasn't
the
feeling very
pillows.
inspired. So he was just like, wait, I'll write about the pillows and the air conditioning jets. And we got a new song out of
Right.
it. All right, so let's go to night 2 here. Our first 2-night run at the Nutter Center here in Dayton, Ohio. 10:11. We get set 1. Coming off of, I should note, a sound check that all we know is that they played My Soul. Set 1, Set Your Soul Free, Funky Bitch, Rogue or Roger, depending on your pronunciation. I won't judge however you pronounce it. Kill Devil Falls, Steam, Into My Friend, into Crazy Sometimes, and then Walls of the Cave closed this out. I'm going to throw it to you, Jonathan, but I just want to say I loved this first set. This to me was
Interesting.
as of this point in time, the only first set from this tour I enjoyed more was Nashville Night 2, Set 1. I
Really?
loved this set. Yeah, I thought it flowed really well. I thought when you pop jams in places like this, it just works really well for me. That's kind of the magic ticket. It's really simple. If you can throw jams in, I don't really care what songs are played. That's just
Well, they didn't play simple.
it's really simple. It's yeah, true. Jonathan, what were your thoughts overall on this set?
I think it's a good set. Kind of like what you're saying. They do drop in a couple jams. They're not substantial micro jams, if you will. Set Your Soul Free opens up, and it opens itself up just a little bit, and then they tighten up with Funky Bitch. Oh, good stuff. Beautiful Roger. Kill Devil Falls does the same thing. It opens up just a little bit, gets into that place for just a moment. You know that place, musical enjoyment. You know that place. You guys remember that movie, right? And then Steam. It's just good song selection here. Steam, My Friend, Crazy Sometimes felt like I had to stop and go, shit, how long's that been? Because it had been a while.
132 shows, 12, 8,
Right.
19.
Yeah, so that was interesting to hear. And then Walls of the Cave to close. Yeah, it's a pretty solid set. I can't complain about it. I honestly though haven't gone back to listen to it since I listened to it that night. But that's not a negative review, it's just honest.
There's lots of music out there. I get it. Don't worry. Meg, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's so interesting to hear you talk about flow because I thought this set really suffered from a lack of flow. I thought that it started off really great. I think this Set Your Soul Free, I mean, it's over 16 minutes. They're using effects really well over some beautiful playing by Paige and Trey. Fishman has that super upbeat tempo and just gorgeous fills, a little bit of those ghost notes that we learned about on our Nashville recap. I feel like learning that was just game changing for me. So I thought when I first heard this set, I listened back to it. I didn't stream it. I was like, wow, this is going to be an amazing set. It's beautiful opener. Funky Bitch, I always enjoy, gets after it. But there's just no world where Roger should be played in the number 3 slot. It doesn't make sense here. It has to be later in the first set. I'm sorry, but it's this is the perfect, don't freak out, but this is the perfect bathroom song because you can actually go.
You got to
and
go to
get
the bathroom
back.
25 minutes into a show.
That's why this is a bad place for it.
You're I mean, hydrating is important, but you are overdoing it clearly.
Let me finish. You can go and get back before it gets pretty, right? But the third spot in the show is not a place where you're ready to do that yet. So it's confusing, and also just energy wise, I don't like it in this slot. I think it's you've got this Set Your Soul Free, kind of this open-hearted big jam, Funky Bitch, which is high energy, and then it's whoop, and you can't use the bathroom yet because you don't really need to, and it seems kind of a waste, but you want to miss the cringy lyrics, but then you can be back at the pretty part.
Cringy lyrics.
Yes,
it's
circus.
Beautiful. It's talking about all the beautiful sights and sounds of the circus. They're shouting out one another. They're trading lyrics.
Is the circus beautiful? The circus is creepy. Circuses are creepy, guys.
The lights.
They're where people get abducted. It's creepy.
Oh, I'm sorry that you had creepy circuses. That's a personal experience. To see somebody about.
I think I want to fall somewhere in the middle of this because I think that you're both raising good points. I personally love Roger. I do agree. What's that?
I think most guys do like it. I don't know why, but you guys all like it.
So
Yeah,
we like
it's
music.
it. For me, I think I look past the lyrics more than you, which may just require more like closer listen on my behalf. I think what I like about it is that it kind of takes a lot of what the band was working towards in 96 and 97, which was this very democratic approach, and puts that into a song. And then in turn, it also employs that sort of ambient style that they were playing around with a lot in 1998, and it kind of like
Hmm.
it takes an Eno experimentation and puts it into a song. Plus, suddenly, holy shit, John Fishman is a singer in this band. Oh my God, let's toss it around the circles. So like there are aspects of it. And it's also interesting to me because like the song was only played a couple of times in 2.0, and then it came back once or twice in early 3.0, and it really wasn't until the mid 2010s that they were able to figure out like how to play this song. And it kind of works the same way that What's the Use does, where until they knew how to really employ silence again and employ patience, it was a bit of a
Hmm.
clunker. So personally, I love it. That said, I think that your point is really sound in terms of the placement of it. I think that if you put this um, either in the my friend slot, and you kind of just swap those, and you have funky
Yeah.
bitch ends, and then immediately like that boom ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, and like a song like my friend that is it harkens so many thoughts to like the early 90s, and it's that compositional kind of weird mastery, and it has a lot of energy, and that goes into Kill Devil Falls, and then we get Steam, and then we get the break. I think I agree
Yeah.
with you that flow overall works a little bit better. Personally, for me, and I use Funky Bitch as a bathroom break, which I know offends the masses, but hey, um, it starts up. I hear that riff, and I'm immediately like, cool, I'm going to get a water, and I'm going to go to the bathroom because nobody's going to be in here. It's the best thing in the world. But I think, and I'm just going to backtrack for a second because I'm the one who said I loved this first set. Even in spite of those two moments, I felt like once we got into Kill Devil Falls, and this Kill Devil Falls is kind of like your it's like the mini version of the Syracuse version. It's kind of like when Heineken released like 6-ounce beers, and it was like cool. Like I could just like put one of these back, and it's not a full beer. It's not like I'm sitting on my back porch like listening to a record while I'm listening to this. But it's like I get that serotonin release, and I get the relaxation like in a short order. This Kill Devil Falls works that way. It gets to that place that the Syracuse version does, but only in 12 minutes, and then it comes back to Kill Devil Falls in a really cool way. I thought Steam, a song that I can take or leave every so often. I thought it was a really strong version.
I didn't
My
like it in this
friend,
spot though either, because I feel
interesting.
like this is better after like a big jam in the fourth quarter of a show. And it also,
Like
again,
kind of
it's like,
dark.
yeah, and it's like you're in Roger, and then it's like sad, and then you're in Kill Devil Falls, and they have this micro jam, and you're
She's
up,
sad.
and then you're like back into Steam. It's just like it's just kind of this like up and down that I didn't get. And then my friend, which is just so like huge and emotional, and then you're back and crazy sometimes. Like that's why I felt like it was just this like roller
Kind of up
coaster
and
there.
down and roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I might have to listen back with your critiques in mind because I don't know. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's one of the things that endlessly fascinates me about this band is like one person can hear one thing, one person can hear another
Hmm.
thing. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong, but like you're just hearing and kind of reacting. There are certain records that people love that like they pass to someone else, and they're like, it didn't do anything for me, and that's just like the way it is. Um, I thought just kind of like getting to the end of this like crazy sometimes. This was the first version since 12/8/19. I've got in my notes. This is a Mike song I do really like. I think it has a really cool funk groove to it. I like that it has like a jam segment towards the end of it, and it seems to hinge at possibilities within the overall song. I thought it worked in this spot. And Walls of the Cave is one of my favorite set closers for the band. It's one of those songs that like you can play it anywhere else. I'm not going to argue with it. I love Walls of the Cave. That was the first new Fish song I ever heard. I still remember the day that it came out on AOL, and I was like, oh my God, I've understood this whole band's back catalog. Now I get to experience a new song with the rest of you. And so it has a very special place in my heart. It opened Coventry, really good version. This wasn't like standout, but it was really solid, and it just it fixed some of the issues the band was having with the mid section of it during 2022. If you recall, there were a few versions
Mm.
that they just like completely lost each other. I thought it was a really nice spot and a good closer here. So I'm going to go back and listen to the set with some of your thoughts in mind, because I think that they're interesting, and I really liked this in the moment. I really liked my second listen to it, but I can definitely understand the kind of up and down nature that you're talking about.
I want to say more about Roger, but I feel like Megan, you maybe didn't get your chance to talk about the rest of the set because I kind of jumped on that. Did you have more to add?
Oh, that's okay. No, I mean, I think Brian kind of said a lot of what I thought, but I do think that Crazy Sometimes, again, a song that they're kind of pulling out, from the catalog, only the ninth time played. I heard it the Baker's Dozen. I love the end of this song. It ended in that like effect heavy, like monster space. I think that's really cool. And like you were saying, Brian, I think that really adds to like where this song could go. It's exciting, I think. And yeah, I thought the end Walls is the best set closer, I think. Thanks, Jonathan.
Sure. So again, I just want to stand in defense of Roger. As you said, it's sad. That I can't really speak to your emotional responses. You have your own, I have my own, kind of as Brian was saying. But I just want to get your consideration. I think I've said this to you before on this show, is that
I
the
believe
like the
so.
latter half of the song is kind of harmonically to me very similar to Winter Queen.
Mm.
It
Mm.
has this
Hmm.
very Trey's in the very, like,
Yeah.
lilting tone, except it also has these heavy bombs from Mike on the bass, and Mike
Mm.
steps some of them, he steps
Doom,
forward and
doom.
really lays out the riffs and then drops the bombs, and it's amazing when it's really working, the dynamics, like What's the Use of this song, are fascinating, but unlike What's the Use, which brings the whole band down to a pin drop and then goes up, this one kind of dives repeatedly in and out of
Well,
it, and
that's
I
interesting.
think it's a journey that is just, oh, it's so gorgeous, and this psychedelic circus space really puts me back in mind of wandering around at Lemon Wheel or something.
Mm.
Well, sadly, I didn't get to go to Lemon Wheel, but yeah, I that's interesting, Jonathan. And you both mentioned What's the Use, which I think you both know is one of my favorite fish compositions. So that's making me think maybe I need to do another listen of Roger. I don't know. Maybe I can get over the creepy circus part and like get into it because it is beautiful, the ending part. So
Clearly, you
I'll
haven't
I'll
heard
listen
the version
again.
of "What's the Use" that's about creepy little gremlins that are attacking people, and it's beautiful. I swear to God. Um, all right, let's go to set two here. Talk about masterful. Just showing my hand
Yes.
left and right here. Down Disease, a rare set two opener, if you will. Pretty shocking in this slot. Into
Shocking.
Ruby Waves, Life Boy, into Piper, into Backwards on Number Line, I Am the Walrus, and then an encore of Egg in a Hole and Possum. Megan, what were your thoughts on this overall set? Was it too creepy? Was it the right amount of creepy? No, I'm joking. I'll stop. What were your thoughts on this overall?
I think this set is perfect fish, in my opinion. You've got this like spicy start with Down with Disease. They sound inspired. You can just tell they're feeling it right away. And even though this is a classic set to opener, it's still the best. It's kind of like when they open with mics or something, too. Like you were saying, Jonathan, it just makes everybody happy. This Ruby Waves, though, multiple sections. It's got the like shiny, bright, almost Plinko section in the beginning. It's got the throwback to the like Paradise City roll with the changes, whatever you want to call it, Northern Island section. The way it goes back into the song and then blasts off again, like they've been doing with Tweezer sometimes. It's so good. Like they come back in and then they just send off into the cosmos. And it's just, there's so many parts of this jam that Trey is playing with so much emotion. And I think that this is why Trey's playing and Fish's jams will always be the best for me, better than any other band, is because the emotion that Trey's able to tap into in these jams and just come soaring out is just so unbelievably gorgeous. And there's actually moments in here when Trey is playing like Bliss Peaks, but everybody else is not just doing the Bliss Peak with them. They're playing like textures and layers, and it's just this is exactly why just nobody can beat Fish for me. This whole jam is just perfect, and landing in Life Boy is like that is the absolute perfect landing after a jam. I mean, Jonathan, you're shaking your head. No?
No. I'm just bopping and hearing it in my
Okay,
head.
good.
Sorry,
Because
please
I'm
continue.
like, Life Boy is just, it's the saddest, also such a throwback. It always makes me feel really young when I hear it. It just reminds me of when I heard that song when I was like 17 and 18 and what I felt like when I heard that song. And it's just, it's one of those songs that like the lyrics are so vulnerable and we've all felt that way before. And to have it after a big jam like that, and then a great piper, the best, always want to have backwards down the number line at this point, and you just get to like be joyful and celebrate, hug your friends, and ending with I Am the Walrus. They ended the first set of the Tuesday 8-1 show at MSG, and it was perfect. It's a perfect set to closer to. Seventh time played, again, pretty rare. Sing along from the crowd, psychedelic swirling ending, totally epic. I think this set is chef's kiss. Brian, what did
Jonathan, what are
you
your
think?
thoughts?
You loved it.
I loved it. I'll reserve my thoughts here for a second. I want to give Jonathan the floor here because I've not heard what your thoughts are on this.
I mean, it's all right, guys. I mean, this Fish played. I
It's
mean,
no
what could go
Roger.
wrong? It's great. I'm gonna skip Down with Disease because every time I play this show in the future, I'm gonna skip Down with Disease. If you haven't heard the Down with Disease, you should probably hear it. But then after that, every time you go to the set, you're gonna listen to the Roger. Not the Roger, the Ruby Waves. Begins with an R. You did that to me, Megan. I think.
Sorry.
This Ruby Waves is amazing. It is, people want to rate stuff. They're going to rate it high. There's no question. If you don't rate it highly, if you rate things, you probably should think about what your priorities are in music. This is exploratory. It is locked in jamming. It is like 3 or 4 minutes of the roll with the changes groove right in the middle, which is glorious and fun to hear. And then the fact that they come back to Ruby Waves and then check out again is just that's everything you want. Brian, you talk about this all the time. You're probably about to talk about this just now here in a minute, and I'm going to step on it, which is that, when they go ahead and just like push on when they could have ended it, that's when they're feeling it just as much as we are. And then they pushed on, and not only did they push on, they pushed into a completely different direction, and it just got weird and amazing. I sat over here on my sofa this morning playing along to it. I don't belong in a band like Fish, but it's a lot of fun to play along and follow how they are changing as they're playing. And this is just an outstanding version that I have listened to several times since it happened. The landing into Life Boy. If RJ were here, he would say that this is how you land from a big jam, I think, because he really loves the Life Boy out of big jams, and I agree. Somebody asked on a social internet media about my thoughts on this Piper and implied that this was a slow jamming, slowish, intro-ish kind of Piper, and it's about the same as usual. Doesn't really go slow for very long, like just a couple bars, and then
just not a slow enough beats per minute for you.
I mean, look, Fish is going to play it how they play it. We all know that.
This is true. They play the music,
but it's fine. At least it doesn't blast immediately to the refrain. But
it's not the Hampton 09 version,
right? But it's fine. And Numberline is really nicely placed and delivered. And then the Walrus. I Am the Walrus. Cuckoo, my fucking chew, dude. This thing is so fucking cool and weird I just love that they're playing this, and it gets bizarre, and then closes tidily, and like it's disorientingly weird, which is what it should be. And they come out for the encore for Egg in a Hole, and I've seen some conversation around this, and I just want to say, first of all, I like Egg in a Hole. I think it's good and weird. I think it's self-aware because they're in the middle of this bizarre song and they're like, I'm not sure I really wanted this, you know. But also they're the comment some people were like, were they looking ahead to Chicago or looking back to I Am the Eggman? Well, why not both? Because they're singing I Gotta Get Back to Chicago. Trey kind of calls that out after the song. They're looking forward to the next stop, which I think everybody in fishdom is right now. Very excited for these Chicago shows. So it's nice to know that the band is excited for them. Brian's scared of the Chicago shows, but
Terrified.
everybody else is excited.
Terrified.
And just a great finish.
To your point, like that is something that differentiates Fish being on tour than just your standard rock band being on tour. There's a connective tissue between Dayton and Chicago and Nashville. These are not just tour stops. This is a tour that has some sort of a theme that we're all going to think about 5-10 years from now.
Right.
And them referencing the next run from this run is a good thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like giving themselves a narrative arc, which I think is so smart, and also like part of like how Fish creates this connectivity between like they know we're all listening. They know we're listening to all these shows. They know we're talking about them. They know we're commenting on them online, and it just builds that sense of community that Fish is so good at doing. And I love when they play. I mean, Egg in a Hole is weird. It's like Don't Doubt Me, right? It's one of those weird songs filled with like inside jokes and
Yeah.
like stupid comments, but they look like they're having so much fun when they play it, which is what matters.
So
Sure. I want to
go ahead.
follow that by answering this Shermith comment. And it's kind of a long one, but Shermith says, we got a few Egg in a Hole plays in 22, but I feel like this is the first true full song play since Halloween. All the other versions were segs, and it's absolutely right.
Totally.
This is like the
Yeah.
most deliberate. I feel like the segs previously, they kind of like, oh, this is okay, we could go there. Kind of, they found their way into it.
Oh
Where
yeah,
this,
like that
they
MSG version.
consciously, right? They were like very purposely walked out. Mike is the Eggman. Play this, they were, and that's what I like about it. In addition to the general weirdness, is that they really wanted to go there.
No, that's a really good point. And yeah, it definitely felt when this was with the first performance after, I guess I can pull it up here on .net. I believe the first performance after Halloween, it was 4/23/2022. Then that came in and out of Simple, and
Simple,
then
yeah.
6/1/2022 came out of Caspian and into Piper. This is the first standalone version. It's interesting to hear the song in that standpoint. It also ties with kind of the hijinks that we're talking about. I just want to highlight a couple comments here before I dive into set two. Ben Gardner, high fives all around on the floor when they finished Ruby Waves. Momentous. Walrus got weird and dark and heavy. Crowd was stunned. Kuroda was incredible. David Miller, my first Life Boy since 98. I was absolutely shell-shocked after the set. It's what we dream about. More on that here in a second. And Ben Fox, never thought I'd witness them landing in Life Boy after a huge journey of a jam. So grateful to be over there for that. I think, Ben, David, and other Ben, these are guys who listen to a ton of Fish the way that we do. They're in this thread often. They listen to our other podcasts. Like, these are guys who are thinking about listening to this music. Their sentiment is what I share. Like, this is why we chase this band. This is why we listen to show after show after show. This is why we talk about show after show after show. And think about this on a level that, like, I probably should only be thinking about like whether or not I'm going to get rich on the stock market type of thing, or like what my kids are going to do in college. You know what I mean? Like there's probably like more productive ways I could like be spending my time, but like this is why we do this. The Ruby Waves, I mean, I've been very detailed about my thoughts on Fish jamming this year. This is my number 5 favorite jam of the year so far, and I could see it going that much higher as I kind of listen back through the jams after the tour ends. It's also like, just of note, I have 3 Ruby Waves in my top 5 right now. It has
That
been
is
a
insane.
momentous it's been a momentous year for this song. This version, the Alpharetta version, and the Mexico version are just
Wow.
next level fish jamming to my ears. This I mean, this is it. This is why I will follow this band forever, regardless of whatever great music comes along. That calypso segment, it's hyper connected. The band's all playing as one. There's no real like, hey, let's go in this direction. It's just, let's ride this space. Let's grow this as much as possible. They come back into it. You're 20 minutes into a jam and you're like, okay, we just saw something really, really good. And then they go into a 10-minute, just like demented, psychedelic, interstellar, weird madness space that is a zone of music that I love. I want to go back to over and over again. I seek out other bands that play in that style. And I love when Fish taps into it. It's them kind of like tapping into like their craft work influences in a way that I'm just like, I'm here for. I'm very into. Beyond that, I really just like, this is one of those sets where they could have played anything and I would have really been cool with it after the Ruby Waves, but I thought that it flowed really nicely. Lifeboy, as you guys are talking about, kind of what we were saying with Broken Into Pieces on night one, having this arsenal of ballads that touch on different emotions and can be played and employed in different areas of the show is a really cool thing. This Lifeboy works really well here. Piper, Numberline, nothing outlandish, but like really, really good playing. I thought Trey's solo in Numberline was really solid. And it kind of harkened back to that very lyrical Allman Brothers type of playing that we heard from him throughout Summer Tour. And Walrus, I'm always going to take the Beatles from Fish. I like them playing the weird Beatles songs. I Am the Walrus has like sneakily become one of their most reliable and dependable covers, regardless of the fact that they haven't played it that much. And then, like I said, the nods to the next show, the humor, playing a rare song that, like, when it started, I would imagine a lot of people are like, what is going on right now? Oh yeah, it's Egg in the Hole. It's just a fun moment. And that's kind of what an encore is for, is to throw a song like that in there where people are like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this. And then Possum, Trey saying that the Nutter Center is one of the sickest rooms that they get to play. I mean, it's another one of those weird things. I think, Jonathan, you mentioned it when we were talking earlier about humor. Like, Megan, you talked about this as well. Like, not only was there no humor in 2.0, but there was no real acknowledgement from the stage of the significance of what was going on and what the fan base was feeling. It was just a lot of like, they took the stage, they played music, they left the stage. When they say things like this, like, hey, we love this room, and you and the fan base can then be like, see, we this is a special place for all of us. That's something that, Fish kind of breaks down the fourth wall often, in of their connection with the fans and being like, hey, we're in on this too, even though we're the ones creating the music in front of you. So I just love that stuff. I thought this was an excellent show. This is currently my favorite show of this overall tour. One of my favorite jams of the overall year. I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as this, and you just get to a point where you're like, this is why we keep doing this is why we keep talking about it.
That fourth wall breaking is a thing, and I'm glad that you mentioned that it wasn't a thing they really did in 2.0. It was one of the big kind of spiritual differences in the era, because
Yeah.
it was common in the 90s. Like, I
Totally.
was just thinking this morning about the in God, what was it? It was in '94, in October when they played UVA, and Trey's like, "Some of you were at Boone last night," like
Yeah.
it. He's
Yeah.
literally stringing it together and connecting the places and the shows and connecting with the audience who were doing the same thing, and th- that was just completely gone in 2.0, and it's around now. Trey's connecting with the audience and the band is connecting with us, and not just because they're playing music and doing the energy feedback thing, but they're there and know that some of us at least are going through this experience with them. And
Yeah, there's a shorthand that the fan base uses to describe a lot of, the tours. This venue/city song was great. This second set was sick. The pit at this place was off the, whatever. Like when the band kind of speaks in that sort of style, it makes you realize, and Trey said this from the stage, that we are a part of this as much as you all are. You get like the real sense that that's not bullshit, that like
Yeah.
they could not do this to just like people seated in a venue coming to like listen to the hits. Like they would not work and would not be
How weird would that
successful
be?
unless they did this way.
Well, the energy that we give them is insane. I mean, nobody listens like Fish fans. Nobody listens like us, and nobody gives back to the band the way that we do. And they know that. And that's like, at the end of the MSG run when Trey's saying like, we love you as much as you love us, like he means that. You're right. And you feel that. And I'm excited to listen back because I thought Nashville Night 2 was so strong. And so I'm curious how these two kind of stack up against each other. I want to listen to them back to back now.
They're kind of
While
different
on the
sides
Nashville
of a
Night 2
coin
is-
for me, because they're both
Mhm.
great. Like
Yeah.
you get a little bit more of the like hijinks and gimmickry in Nashville Night 2, where like there's a bit more kind of segues. This one is obviously anchored by a huge jam, but
Yeah.
I think if you caught either one of these shows, you're in a good spot. And regardless how much more Fish you're seeing this year, you can walk away being like, I saw a really, really good show in Nashville. I saw a really, really good show in Dayton. And to everyone who saw Nashville Night 1, Nashville Night 3, Dayton Night 1, and didn't see these two shows, I still think those were really good. Like you're at a point in
Yeah.
this tour where like you're just seeing really good music, even, and
This
that's
year
never a
even.
given. Sometimes you see the really good show, or you see the show that kind of feels like an off night. This tour doesn't
Yeah.
really feel so far like there's an off night.
I'd offer no guarantees for Chicago, but so far out of 5
Me either.
shows, we've had
Yeah.
5 good shows.
Yeah.
A couple
I also think that
arguably greater, but 5 good shows with
I
all
think this
great.
year
All have had
is
great
super
music.
strong in general.
Yeah.
Like every show they played this year, there's been something great that happened at it, I think.
So, not to get into the prediction game,
Sure.
but Chicago starts tonight. But I want to talk about tomorrow because tomorrow is an interesting day. Tomorrow being it's not just because it's Saturday. It's not because it's the 14th. It's because we have a partial solar eclipse that they call the Ring of Fire eclipse. And anybody around here know what Ring of Fire is for Fish? It's the
Ambient jam, baby.
Lemon Wheel Ambient Jam was the Ring of Fire jam. So does
Sick.
Fish remember that? Because you can't always count on them to remember.
Someone will
those
tell
things.
them.
So it's an interesting question because, and I will admit at this point being potentially wrong on dates, which is a rare thing. But over the summer, as we're preparing for Dick's, I found that according to Fish.net, they were going to play their 2000th show on Saturday night at Dick's. It appears as though their 2000th show was actually Friday night at Nashville. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly where the misprint is there. Maybe it's like 2 shows on one day that has been counted. I don't know.
Mm.
I can
But
tell you that Dave Steinberg often differs for dates because
okay,
he doesn't count certain shows. So it
interesting.
depends on
And the
if you're
band
looking
might
at
be counting those.
Fish.net
Yeah.
stats or Zizek stats because he
Interesting.
doesn't count some. So that puts things off by a couple nights.
Just a bit.
sometimes.
Well, it was interesting because they opened Saturday night in Nashville with 2001, which
Yeah, so they're
indicates the
counting. They're
2001st show. They know this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So with that said, I do think that they are aware of these things. I do think that like someone in the Fish orbit is like, hey, this is going on. This is happening. Whether or not we're going to get so deep that we're going to get a very ambient heavy second set, I'm rooting for it.
Same.
yeah, sure.
That'd be so
That
awesome.
said, I am unfortunately a diehard Chicago Bulls fan, and I know that venue is a tease. Okay, there have been moments in that venue that will make you weep with joy if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, and there are moments in that venue that will make you horrified and curl up in the fetal
This is
position.
an entirely different sport.
Why in the hell is Derrick
But-
Rose playing with 6 minutes left in a blowout game in game 1 of the 2012 playoffs? And oh my God, what just happened to his knee? Oh my God, everything is ruined. Our entire the system that we built over 5 years comes crashing down. And now, wait, what is going on? We just traded for Zach LaVine, the biggest loser in the NBA. Why do I have to root
What
for this
is
man
going
over
on
Jimmy
here?
Butler for the next 6 years of my life? Why are you doing this to me over
Brian, you're
and
putting
over
your
and over
bad
again?
juju on the
I'm just
Yeah,
Oklahoma Center.
man.
scared.
Take your
I'm just
bad
scared.
juju,
Different
man.
sport,
I'm
bro.
just scared. Get the hell out of here with your ghost Sixers, McGrupp. All right, you got a James Harden problem to deal with. Okay, just get out of here. You had
Oh
no
my
business
God.
being in Game 7
We
of the
put him on
2012
mute. Hey, do
NBA
you have a
Eastern
button for that?
Conference
I
semis.
don't.
You had no business. No business. All right, I'm done.
Send him to the lobby.
I
Settle
hope
down, man.
It,
It's a
Brian, I
fish
get it though.
show.
It's vibes. You're worried about vibes and
terrified.
bad
They've never
juju.
played the United Center. I've seen so many concerts of the United Center. It's not a good building.
Have you
Sorry,
ever seen a
just
good
not.
concert there?
Yes, Bruce Springsteen, 1999.
Okay, so
But
just
If
think
the
about
boss
that.
can do it, I'm
No,
pretty
the
sure
boss,
Fish can do it too.
the boss was, just think about that. It's gonna be okay.
it's
The
Chicago
fans
Fish.
will
I'm
bring the
excited.
vibe.
Yeah.
The fans will bring the vibe, and
And
hopefully
Hell
Fish
yeah.
brings the
fans will live
vibe
up to
and
it.
sets me at ease. But I'm nervous, and I have good reason to. I do hope that the second set though is all ambient jamming. That would be great, or ambient jamming, whatever you guys want. So
I'm excited for these
um,
shows.
before I continue to go down the rabbit hole of the Chicago Bulls history over the last 25 years, I agree with you guys. We're in a really, really good spot. This has been an excellent Midwest fall tour, jaunt, run, whatever you want to say. And we got 3 nights in
Cool.
Chicago before we have a couple months off, our biggest break from Fish.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much more fish we're going to get in the next 9 months. So I would say savor this. We have MSG, we have Mexico. Beyond that, I don't really know. I would love for them to take the approach touring that they did this year, but you just never know. We never know what they're feeling, and so savor these last 3 shows because it's gonna be good. I'm excited.
Hampton
We
in the
will be
spring, though,
back.
right, guys?
Hopefully, we will
Mhm.
be back. I think we're going to do Monday again to cover the
Yeah.
whole
Yep.
3-night run. So we will post information about this over the weekend. Everyone who's going to Chicago, enjoy. We'll see you guys on Monday to talk about Fish's tour finale run from the greatest city in America. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
See y'all.
everybody.